All right. Well, let's get started. We're a couple of minutes in. Sorry for the delay, but so my name is Carlos. I'm the head of customer success here at Rocketspark, and this is part of our education. What we really want to achieve in the CS team or the customer success team is that we can support customers and our partners, but also help them to be successful. And we believe that if you're successful with your digital presence, then and your business, that things will be working better, and you'll continue to work with Rocketspark. So today's webinar came out of that. And so this is on turning visitors into customers. And it might seem a little simple, maybe. And when we go through some of the content, I kind of was thinking to myself, some people will think, oh, that's stuff that I knew, or I kind of inherently understood that or knew that, and that I should probably do it. But the key thing here is kind of like attending a conference, maybe, is actually taking some time out, and hopefully we'll get through this one pretty quickly, to be able to go, actually, I don't have that done, or I didn't know I should do it that way, or that was an option. And actually now I'm going to go and do these things so that I can make sure that I'm getting those visitors converted through to whatever that customer looks like for you. This is the first time we've done this one. So again, I'd appreciate any feedback and really encourage you to use the chat or the Q&A, either or. I've got both of them on my screen, to ask questions as we're going through. I really want that in-depth understanding of what you need. So if I'm going through and you're like, okay, that's pretty simple, but what about this scenario? Or why wouldn't we do this? Just ask it, please. It will help other people on the webinar, but also it'll help me to understand what you need from these, instead of delivering the same thing on a regular basis and not actually being fit for purpose. So let's get started. So what we're going to run through is the customer journey. Pretty simple customer journey. Obviously, this can be fleshed out quite deeply and go into things like how they might be feeling and what they're dealing with at the time, and we can go into a little bit of that, but just a brief customer journey, and then giving your visitors direction, so creating the calls to action. And that's really the key thing about today, is about making sure that somebody that ends up at your site from good SEO and advertising and marketing, that they then are encouraged to do what you want them to do. Some smart strategies around those calls to actions, or those things, and then kind of what you're going to do next. So pretty straightforward. We'll go through some of these within the Rocketspark tool and look at changing them, just in case you're not familiar with that, and where some things are. And again, if you've got questions during that, it'd be great to get those. And then any questions that we haven't covered, or any other scenarios that people might want me to cover, we can do at the end as well, which I'll have time for. But again, we want to get through most of it pretty quickly so that you're not on this forever. All right, so the visitor journey. I've put in here that your website should guide visitors to action. And if you're not thinking that way, then how will they ever take that action? I've put on this purely informational. We do have some sites on Rocketspark that are purely there to give information. But even in saying that, there's still a bit of a journey, but it's probably not so much around turning them into a customer. It's probably just making sure people are getting access to the information and going through your site cleanly. So the way I've kind of put this is that there's a discover part to the journey, and that's really around your SEO or your digital marketing, and this is getting more visitors to your site. I've put check out the SEO Basics webinar. It'd be interesting if any of you have seen that or watched a replay or joined me on that. But that's really important. We're not going to be able to turn visitors into customers unless we have visitors to the site or get more. And I have worked with some local businesses as kind of case studies around wanting to grow their business, and more often than not, most things are set up well or need a little bit of tweaking, and then it comes down to just getting more visitors and increasing that ratio. So the next stage then is learn. So what somebody will then generally do is they'll find you through the discovery phase, and then they will come to your website and learn about your product or your service. And this is where you need to think about the pages and your content, but also the natural journey that a visitor will take. It's really important that they can find what they need to be able to learn about your organization and then go to the next phase, which is decide. We do some of this within SEO, but for now, it's probably just thinking about, have I got the content for everything I do? So I've put some ideas there around services, and this can be good to have just to say a services page. The business that I've created today that we'll use as an example is an electrician business. And so in that business, we need to let people know what we do. It's great that they've found an electrician that might be in their local area and they've come to their website, and we say we're a great electrician and we service our local area, and we get great reviews. But what do we actually do? Are you going to be able to provide the service that I need? So having a services page is great, but actually taking that a step further and having the individual services that you provide can be good as well. If you're selling a product, there can be brands, and then also the projects you might have worked on and so on. Single page website versus a multi-page website, really great question. In my view, a single page website can potentially achieve what you need it to do, which may get maybe an inquiry or call you. The challenge there is that from an SEO, from a search engine optimization, and even an AEO for answer engine optimization, it can be a bit lacking. It can lack the level of content that's going to rank you higher than somebody else, because you just don't have those other elements or that content on the page. But it can also be a little challenging for a person to sometimes scroll through all of that. So if you are creating all that content and adding it to your site, like these bits we're talking really simply here, services, brands that you work with, different projects, that page can get quite long and challenging for a person to navigate through, even though it seems simple. It's just not very natural. So just consider that. If you've got a single page website, just make sure that that journey is good. And the stuff that we're about to talk around, those calls to action, that they're really clearly placed so that you can get them to take action. Hopefully that helps answer that. But yeah, the SEO one's probably the key one for me there. So once they've learned about your organization, your business, or your service or offering, then they make a decision. And hopefully that decision is to, to use you or buy your product, or it will be the decision not to. But ultimately, we've set everything up in a way that's going to help them to make that decision. And then the final piece of that really is act. This is where the visitor is taking action and using one of your calls to action, apart from my typo there. The key thing here is that we need to guide them to this. And so I've put a list of different things, but there can be more. But think about all of these. There's buttons that can take them to another page, which could be part of the journey. They could also take them to a contact us page. You can have links which do the same things. You can have forms on those pages, on any of those pages where they complete a form. You could have a booking widget. For instance, we use Google Workspace, and when you're on their standard plan or above, you get the ability for appointment bookings. And so you can actually embed those appointment bookings within the tool. It checks your calendar and means that they can actually just book with you right then and there. You could just have a simple email link, phone option, and even your address so that they can visit you. But there are a lot of different ways that we can get people to take action. And a key part here is actually giving them multiple ways. It may seem kind of ridiculous. You might say, oh, I've got a form on my page. They just need to fill out the form and get in touch. Some people just won't do that. I've found, even for instance, with education and doing these webinars, that we've got some great attendance today, but it's not everybody. Some people won't want to absorb this information in this way. So we need to have a video recording of it. We also need to make sure we've got guides or blogs, and also make sure it's evident within our tool. So we need all of these different ways to get across as many people as we can. So just recapping, that's that sort of journey that we're kind of looking at the moment. And that can be just in the back of your mind when you're thinking of your site, so that it's really simple and that you can make sure each part of that is working for you. So CTAs, or calls to action. Your call to action are your way of telling visitors what you want them to do. And it is important that you are guiding them and telling them what to do. So having a look at writing a call to action, the key, and we're going to go into this in an example very shortly, but we want action-orientated language. This won't work in all cases. So, I understand if you're sitting there going, oh, this is really what I need, but think more like get a quote and less like click here. Click here doesn't necessarily tell them what they're doing, and people want to know what they're doing. Things like book a session, learn more, inquire now, top now you can read the page. They're all things that sort of help them to understand what they're going to do and give them action. Also, benefit driven wording. So get a free quote can be a really great way as well. So something that encourages them to do something and know what's going to happen, but it's also, free. So it's going to help them to feel like, oh, I'm going to do this. There's nothing more to it. Make it immediately obvious what's happening when they click. And that's kind of similar to some of the SEO things we go through. We talk about buttons and links, and that can be between other pages in your site, but we talk about explaining what you're doing, where you're going to link to, what you're going to land on, instead of just click here or link or something like that. And also, I wanted to just make sure that we incorporate the setting up your tap to call. So whilst we can have lots of different ways to have a button or a link and so on, we need to make sure we've got a tap to call. And this is simple. There's no really special way to add it, but we need to make sure we've got it. And where is it and how do we set it up? So I'm going to go through that in a minute as well. And I'd be really interested if the people on the webinar today, if you can maybe have a quick look while we're going through this and tell me if you have a tap to call on mobile or not. I'd kind of be more interested if you don't. Just that we've done some research in this lately, and the number of websites that don't have a tap to call is pretty high. And we're kind of interested in, and we're working on a way to help people identify this. So yeah, let me know. Putting your call to action in the right place also helps. So what we're going to have a look at, awesome, love the honesty. There's a comment there, I didn't even know you could. So we're going to show you that in a second. And if nothing else, get that on there, because if somebody comes to your website on mobile, being able to just tap to call is really important, that we don't want them sort of fishing around the site for a phone number. So yeah, putting your call to actions in the right place. So obviously having them at the top of your page is great. And so we're going to show you how to have it as a header button, but also as a sticky header. So there might be some people on the webinar today that are using quite an old template, or might not even be on the dynamic header template, which is what you need to have a header button and also to have sticky header. And we'll show you what that means, but having a sticky header means your header is going to stay there the whole time. It's great for navigation as they scroll down the page to always be able to click on a menu item, but that call to action and your primary call to action, because you might have multiple, is going to be right there in front of them the whole time. It means that they don't have to scroll back up or look somewhere else to find it. Within your content, it's important to also have these throughout your pages, and we're going to show you that too. But adding a button, add a piece of text or a link on something so that maybe below an image or on the image, just helps people to go, cool, because they might make their decision halfway through a page on your services page. So we need to make sure it's there for them and really easy, that they can't back out of that decision, I guess. And also at the end of pages or sections, as somebody goes through a section and goes, oh, that's really great information, I now understand that, I'm happy to go ahead, I want to inquire, or I want to reach out to these people, make it easy for them. So at the end of a page or at the end of a section is good. And there I've written that as well around making, when their decision, they have the call to action there. Make them stand out. They need to be attractive. We don't want this to be lost in text. Yes, the text link will look slightly different, but it's not as evident. We want to make sure that they can see this call to action and do it. So thinking about color and contrast, the size and shape. I say give them space, and that's important. If you've got a button that says do something, if it's squashed in between a bunch of text or right up against an image, it can be hard to actually see that call to action. So give them space. And our in-house designer, Tyron, always talks about giving space, even with content, and that people are quite afraid of that. And be consistent. You don't want to have buttons throughout your site or different ways of doing it that don't look in theme. It can just be disorientating for a person when they're viewing a site to know, why is that so different? Is it going to do something different? I'm not sure about this. So let's have a look at the site that I created. Please don't judge. This was just something that I put together for a made-up business called Current Electrical. And here's our homepage and our content through the site. So what we're going to have a look at first really quickly is our header. So our header sits at the top here. I'm using the header overlay first stack just to make that look a little cleaner. But the first thing I want to do is have a look at the header button. So if I go to change design, I'll just come into the editor. I can go to change design, You can also click on the edit pencil here and it'll just take you straight to the header and menu. And if you click on the edit pencil here, it will take you to your brand to update your logo. So either of those will work. I tend to use change design because then I have it really clear here. And I'm going to go to my header and menu. So the first thing we're going to look at is add header button, which is at the bottom here. And so if I toggle that on, straight away we get a button in the header here, which says get in touch currently. And so we can click on the content and we can change this. So I'm going to say get in touch for now, and it's going to take us to our get in touch page. And this can be really good for analytical purposes, which we'll go into in a bit, but having it go to a page means you can track the number of visitors to that page. You might even be able to track the click if you're going to get more advanced with analytics as well. You can also take this to an external website, which I probably wouldn't necessarily recommend, even if it's to a booking site, because you should be able to embed that within your website and make that journey better for a customer. But that's effectively how we create that button. And we can then change the text in the background. We can also go and have a look at our button styles as well, and we can have a look at those different styles and change that. So for instance, I might do an outline instead of a fill, and then once we go back into our header and menu, we can then say I want to make the outline white, for instance, and the text is white, which is fine. So that might stand out a little bit more, and then you can have a play around. So we talked about that contrast. So, you know, this has a hover over effect so that it's kind of clear that something happens. But I don't particularly like that it's kind of the gray because of the background that's transparent and so on. Actually, if we have a quick look here in our buttons, so that's our standard buttons, not our header button. So play around with that, get it there, but have it. It doesn't take up your pages, so you can have your layout with your buttons separate. And if we look at our change design and header menu, you'll be able to see that those circles are things like the button. So at the moment, we're using a centered menu, logo on the left, and our buttons or icons on the right, which could be your shop icons. And so there are a bunch of different ways to be able to do that and have that there. But I quite like this layout. It's really clear that that's standing there and it should be clicked on as well. So the next thing we're going to look at is sticky header. So again, please comment if you didn't know about the button. I'd be really interested for our product team to know if you weren't clear that that was something you could do. And also if you haven't got it, because then I can explain how to find that or get onto the dynamic header template if you're not. So sticky header, if we go to our header and menu again, this is kind of a bit tricky. We've got our announcement bar, which is not something we'll go through today, but you can add an announcement bar, which can be toggled off by a visitor. But there's actually this other menu under the 3 dots here, and we are working on this to make it a bit clearer to find. But if you click on that, you get a few more things. And the first one here is sticky header. And I've currently got it on, and I've got it with a black background because my menu is in white. So I want that to contrast. It can't overlay the stack behind because you could have so much different stuff on the page that the text wouldn't be visible. So now that we've got that on, I'll show you what that looks like. So we click save, and I'll just do it in preview to make it easier to see. So as we scroll, once we get past that first section, you'll see that that pops up. And now our call to action is right there and easy. No matter where we get to, they might come down to this page and say, meet the team, great, I love them. Boom, I can click on that now and it's right there. I didn't have to scroll back to the top. So that can be really powerful as well. It also helps them to navigate those other pages. I think this is the last bit in the header, but we're going to now quickly have a look at. So I've gone into header and menu. I'm going to click on those 3 dots again. There is also a contact bar option. And I'm going to show you this first because it leads into our tap to call. But if we click on our show contact bar, you'll see that there's a bar that appears at the top and we can edit that content. That should be fine. All right, so now what we can do is we can put in a phone number like that, and then we might put I've got it right aligned. I can adjust the font style if I want. I might make it a bit bolder, maybe. It's kind of up to you. And we can save. So that's now is another option to make your phone number and email address stand out on desktop. This doesn't appear on mobile. This is a desktop thing. It doesn't sticky header. It's about being there first and foremost. So it's probably an older design, but it can be important. And it's probably important for businesses like trades and so on that just want their phone number and email right there, right in front of people. So that's how you put that in. If we go back to our change design now and our header and menu, what we want to do is we want to click on this mobile icon here, and this helps us to adjust our header for mobile. And what we can see is that we've now got our mobile tap to call. So I'd be interested if people didn't know that was there or they don't have it on their site. Please let me know. That would be good. So we can go display tap to call icon on mobile, and we can add our mobile number there. And let's save that, and let's have a look at that. So now that we've done it, I can go to our mobile and we can see that we've got a tap. Didn't know about this, definitely going to add it now. Perfect. Then the webinar is a success, I think. So what we've got here is our tap to call mobile icon. I'm going to change this a little bit because I can't stand that. I'm not, you're not seeing this image properly. So I'm just going to go into my width and spacing for mobile and just increase this a little bit. Okay. All right. So on mobile now we have this, and now because I've done that, we need to change the colors of this. So let's go to our change design again, header and menu, click on our mobile. I think that's us. Let's have a quick look. Here we go. So again, we probably need to play with that a little bit, but now I've got my burger menu for my menu, but I've got the tap to call, which I can then click on. And if I'm on a desktop, it will, which you'll never see, it says to open FaceTime. But if I'm on my mobile device, it will then show at the bottom of the screen of my mobile call, and it'll have the phone number so that they can make that call really easy. So the main thing probably here is just making sure that people can see this well enough. And that might be, in this case, changing the height of that mobile background image so that it's not messing up with those. But then you do need to be a bit careful with that. The other thing too is that we could potentially change this so that it's aligned to the top, so that it's darker at the top as well, or even hide the picture on mobile, which I'll just check how that might work in this case. Yeah, not great. So just having a play around with that. Hopefully just me showing you some of those means that you can see where there's some options, but I think just having that top aligned will probably help a little bit anyway, which it does. Makes those more clearly easy to see. All right, so now that we've done our button in the header and sticky header, we've also got our tap to call. Just remember, adding some buttons or links throughout your page can be good as well. This might be too early, but you might want to come down here and say, great, we've got all of those. I'm going to add a button below this, and I'm going to say, get in touch now, maybe make it really urgent and take them to my get in touch page. And obviously I need to adjust the style of that button, which I can do in our change design or specifically on this stack if it's different to our other stacks, just to make sure it's really clear. Again, I quite like that style of button. Because we get that contrast as you shadow over it. But yeah, keep going through, make sure there's some options. The other thing that we talked about the bottom of the page. Having things in the bottom of the page in your footer can be helpful. What I'm going to quickly show you here is, and I'll show you on another page too if we've got some time, that you can make a clickable phone number somewhere else on the page. So the tap to call is great because it's there, it's built in, it's at the top of the page on mobile, but you may want this, just like an email address gets that underline and you can click on it, you can do that with a mobile number or a phone number. So let's have a look. So if I take that out, save, and let's edit that again. I can put in my number here, and that's not clickable at the moment. So if I highlight that and use the link button, I can then say, go to a website, and I can type TEL, all lowercase, colon, then that number, and save. And that is going to, just like a mail to link, which is that, how come the email address is highlighted? And that's pretty standard. Generally, an email address will just happen for you, but phone numbers won't. So by putting that TEL colon and then the number, that creates a clickable phone link. And so now you can see when I hover over that, I get the underline. It might be hard to see on your screen, but I get that underline. And now when I click on that, it says, great, I want to open FaceTime and call. But obviously, if I was on my mobile, it would do the call this number. The same with the email address. These happen more easily by themselves. If that doesn't for some reason, just so you've got this as well. So like, for instance, if I space there, it hasn't made that clickable. It only makes it clickable when you enter after it. So if you ever get to a situation you haven't got it and you're struggling, same thing can apply. You just click on that, go to website. This is mail to colon, and then the email address. That's all you need. And that will then make it a clickable link. And there you go. We've got that clickable link. All right. So hopefully that has covered those things. We don't have much time left based on what I'm trying to achieve. So I'm going to go to the next slide and let's keep going. Smart strategies. Simplify your forms. One key thing, if you're using a form, which again, I would definitely recommend, is that you make it easy for people to complete the form. Asking too many questions or too detailed questions can make it a barrier for people to complete. If you want to get their information and get them in touch with you so you have a lead, maybe reduce some of that or play around with it. Try, a form that's fully labeled out, and then get the data of that, use analytics to find that information, and then later on try it with less information there. Clear questions and make it actionable. So send my inquiry, sign me up, tell people what you're doing. Build trust and show you're reliable. I think this is kind of fundamental. It's not so much the action part. This is around the making a decision about you. So use testimonials and reviews, share that information, make your contact information clear, and make your website professional and well designed. And we would definitely recommend engaging with a designer if you haven't, or your website needs a refresh, because we see that designed websites are generally more successful because they've got that design and professional look, and they've got a flow to them that sometimes gets missed when you're doing it yourself. And make it mobile friendly. We've kind of touched on that with the tap to call, but when we go to a page, we'll have a look at this as well. When you add those buttons and things like that, it's just making sure that that's really easy to see, that you've got the sizing right, that it is correctly set up so somebody can see that. Changing my buttons definitely changed things. So let's have a quick look. So I've got a form here on my Get in Touch page, and I've got name, phone, email, preferred team member, preferred timing of appointment, why would you like to see us, and so on. And that's great. If we need all that information right now, that's good. But we may want to say, actually, if somebody's just inquiring about getting a job done, maybe we just need a name, phone number, email, and a message. Maybe that will limit people's hesitation, because every time there's something extra or something longer they need to add is a potential point where they might disengage with that. So really simple. If you haven't got a form already, as you come over to your dashboard, it's probably the easiest way to go. You've got My Forms. You can then build and create any form that you want, or if you've got an existing one, and then you can edit that and change the fields. So you can update all of those. You can even update where it goes to. You could have different forms for different team members or for different products. And then once you've done all of that, to the right page, you can simply use the plus or add a block, and then just go email form, and then you'll get to choose from one of those forms. Again, remember that some people will use the form, some people will email you, some people will phone you. Having all of those options can be really important. And making sure that you're getting these forms, making sure your email address is correct, and that those forms are coming through. The number of websites where forms are not going through because an email address is wrong, or you've used an email address and that email address stopped working one day, and because of that, you're no longer getting any future ones, even though your email is back on track. Get in touch with us if you have any hesitation or worry about it. We can double check that there's no restrictions on your email, that it hasn't been blocked because of spam or something like that. And we can reactivate it if needed, because you should be getting form submissions. Just like in our footer as well, we've got this contact us page. We may want to add in some context here. We may want to put our phone number. We may want to put our email, because again, somebody may not want to fill out a form. They might just want to do, just literally send us an email. So again, remember, I space there, it doesn't do it. If I enter, that automatically makes it a clickable link. Phone numbers are a bit different. We need to highlight it, do the link, TL, save. That's now a link. Now we've given people multiple options to get in touch with us. So taking that visitor to your site, turning them into a customer there. So make sure you've got that sort of set up right. Remember, on mobile, these will all format, but double check it. Make sure it's laying out right, that it's looking good, which is clear to see there, apart from my buttons. Again, I need to sort out my header and my design there. But let's also just quickly double check on our home page. I wanted to show you on mobile. We've got the tap to call, which is great. We don't have sticky header on mobile. It takes up too much of the space. So you've got to be careful with that, because you can't see the content. So this is why it's so important to have those buttons. Make sure they look right. This button doesn't look particularly good to me. We probably want each of these columns just as one column on mobile, but make it really clear about that call to action, and make it easy to see. You know, if we've got this far down, now we're like, well, I just want to get in touch with you. I don't know where to go. What am I supposed to do? So make sure that's clear on mobile too. And I think, based on the time we had, that kind of brings us to next steps. And really, next steps is putting it all together. You know, I know that we've had a couple of comments already, but log into your website now, check out those things. If you've only taken a couple of things away from today, that's okay. And if it's, you know, add a tap to call to your site, make sure you've got a header button. If you don't have the header button option, then you're on an old template. Move to the dynamic header template. Get in touch with our customer success team, support@rocketspark.com. If there's any challenges, we'll help you to get across. All your content and everything stays the same. It just gives you access to those newer features. There are a couple of old templates where they won't work, so we just need to navigate you through that if that's one of those cases, but they're very rare. But yeah, just take those. Add a form if you don't have a form. Add that form to the bottom of your homepage instead of just on your contact page. Think about where you're doing it and what that journey is like. And if you haven't put customer testimonials on your site, that's a really good thing too. The other thing I would say here, just when we go to the questions page, is analytics. So we haven't sort of gone through that, but once you've got all these things set up, it's important that you know that your website is working for you. And so we've got the dashboard in Rocketspark. I haven't connected something on this test site, but set up Google Analytics. We've got heaps of guides and information on that, or call our team, you know, so you put your analytics tracking number here and then connect your dashboard. But being able to see what's happening. And the key one here is that you're also able to see your forms received and your mobile calls when you're on one of our pro plans. So that's Website Builder Pro, E-commerce Grow, or E-commerce Pro. Once you've got that, you're going to see this. You're going to get a report every month that's going to tell you how many visitors you've had, how many sessions you've had, how many calls, and whether that's up or down on the previous month. And it's going to help you understand that your website's working for you. And if it's not, then what do we need to do? You need to jump on another webinar with me or the team. Do we need to work on our SEO? Do we need to check that customer journey? Whatever it might be. But if you don't know what's happening, then it's kind of like just hoping, I guess, that you've got everything right. There is a webinar on analytics, so it's on our customer webinars page. Let me put that link in the chat for you guys as well, just in case, but I think you would have gone there. But on that page, on here, you'll see our upcoming webinars. which are those two next ones, which are getting the most out of Google Workspace and the most out of the Flint AI Writer within Rocketspark. But you can also see the other webinars that you can watch on demand. And interesting. We have definitely done a webinar on analytics. So I'll just double check where that is and get that loaded on here as well, because you want that information. Reading it can be complicated, and that's why we actually built the dashboard, is that in here you can have a really simple graph that you don't have to go and manipulate or scroll through different pages on analytics to find out. It's using all the power of Google Analytics, but you're able to just say, okay, I want to know how many sessions I've had. So literally how many times a person comes to my website every day, and is that getting better or worse? Or if I added new content, did that create a spike? Did the marketing I did actually do something? Did the event I go to create more visitors? And then obviously the forms receive a mobile, and it makes it really easy to understand at that level. If you want to go further and you're trying to do AdWords and things, you're obviously going to get a bit more complicated. But this will have it all for you. It even has the option to have what pages are doing well. So you can actually just say, well, I wonder what this new page is doing. Is my services page is working? How many people are visiting that page? And you'll be able to see that in here really easily without having to get into the complexity of the full analytics or Google Analytics. But yeah, you're totally right. It's really overwhelming at first glance. And that's why I would follow our guide on setting up Google Analytics. I think GA. How to create a new Google Analytics account, and then it will, you'll see here that we have a whole bunch of screenshots, and quite often we have this, what we call story lane setup. So you can do it in here, or you can make it bigger, and that may not have worked for you. So, but get started. And this is just step by step. It's going to walk you through at your own pace how to get set up and what you need to do, and then also how to connect it through to your dashboard. So really simple. Step by step means you can do it alongside it as well, which will hopefully be good. But yeah, creating your account, getting it linked up with Rocketspark, making sure it's working, and then connecting your dashboard, and then you're away. So maybe I'll put that in there just in case somebody wants to grab it without having to find straight away. So as I mentioned, that sort of brings us to the end, and we went over a little bit, so my timing's not perfect. Thank you guys for staying online and so on, but I'll hang around if anyone's got any other questions or wants me to go through anything that I've talked about, or even a scenario or creating a page, whatever it might be. I'm happy to stay around for a few more minutes while there's people on the call. Otherwise, have a great day. Please do the survey. Please continue to monitor the customer webinars page and our newsletters, and join me on the next one, and let us know what you want to see, because we want to try and help impart our knowledge and help you be successful. Oh yeah, perfect. So we've got, I appreciate all the thanks, team. We've got a question there just around how do we change the hyperlink color. So let's have a quick look at that. So by default, under your change design, under your headings and paragraphs is where you set your site-wide settings. So this is going to set what they are just in general. So here you'll see the text link color is set as this blue color, just kind of makes it easy to sort of pop. So let's have a look. If we come in here and just set this up as a link to one of our pages, you'll see that's turned blue. The other thing though is that sometimes you'll have a different colored background, or you might have text on an image. And so the other option is that you can come to your stack, which is this, between these two lines, and you can change with the edit pencil this particular stack's headings and paragraph settings. And so for this one, we might say, actually, we want this color to be, we'll just choose a bright red color for our hyperlink text and save. And in that way, it's just going to help with that contrast in the background, where that blue may not have been quite as appropriate. So let's do that. And now you can see that's red, but the hyperlink up here has stayed blue. So that's adopting our site-wide settings, and this is doing our stack-specific settings. So hopefully that's kind of helpful. Yeah, more than happy to have a chat. What I can do is, I'm sure we've got your details. I'll take down your name, and yeah, I can give you a call, or I'll flick you a message so we can have a chat. What was the step to hyperlink a phone number? Yeah, let's go through that. I know that I went through that pretty quickly. So wherever you might have added a phone number, I'm just going to add a text block for this. What you want to do is you want to add the phone number in whatever format you might want it. You can also add, all us or something. You can add whatever text you want. But effectively, we're going to highlight that phone number or text, and then we're going to use this icon here, which is to insert a link to that text. And obviously, we don't want it to link to a page. We need to link it externally. And all you need to do here is TEL for telephone, colon, so the 2 dots, then type in the phone number. You don't need any spaces or anything on that. If you have spaces, it just actually pauses before it enters the number, and then click save. And you'll see that that's become a phone number link now as well. But again, you can do that even for text if you don't necessarily want it to be the phone number. And that will also work as well. Cool. Still a couple of people there. I'll hang around for a couple more minutes if anyone's got any questions or wants me to show anything. I think we're pretty covered.